F100 is one of the most searched film cameras from Nikon. The others are FM2, F2 and F3, so I'll be covering it thoroughly by popular demand. F100 from 1999 is part of a range of battery-powered autofocus Nikon F series which started with the F4. It is closest to the look and feel of the top-of-the-line Nikon F6, which we covered here. But it's almost 1/10 of the price, which makes it amazing value for money. I'll be making frequent comparisons with the F6. It also has a strong resemblance to the digital cameras. F100 is regarded as either a high-end or professional camera. Here is an executive summary for busy people. F100 has a fortified die-cast magnesium alloy body and is compatible with a huge range of manual and autofocus Nikkor lenses. It has the full PSAM shooting modes, and therefore it can emulate the basic features of many other Nikon cameras in a way that appears very similar and convenient today. It has a 5-area multicam 1300 autofocus system for high-speed continuous shooting as well as dynamic autofocus tracking for moving subjects. It uses a 10-segment 3D matrix metering. It has 22 custom menu settings. It has power winding and rewinding, using standard AA batteries built into the grip. F100 uses the familiar Nikon twin dial system for choosing the camera settings. The LCD panel on top has many similarities with other Nikon cameras since the F5. If you are familiar with digital SLRs but want to try a full-featured, no-compromise, solid Nikon film camera at a bargain price, there are few choices better than the F100. This is not a collector's camera, it is a camera to be used. Nikon F100 is one of the most sought-after SLR film cameras on the second-hand market. I confidently predict that its value will begin to rise with the passage of time and the renewed interest in film photography. Here's the quick start to get you going. At the bottom of the camera, turn this knob and pull out the battery chamber. Insert 4 AA batteries, good for around 70 film rolls, or more than a year. Mount a lens, align the index marks, and twist to the left, the opposite of what you would expect. This back to the front direction is almost unique to Nikon, borrowed from the earliest Nikon S cameras, which in turn followed earlier Contax cameras. Set the aperture ring on the smallest aperture, which is the highest number such as 22, then lock it in place. This allows the camera body to control the aperture directly. Turn the switch to the on position. You will see a lot of camera settings in the LCD panel, but after 6 seconds, most of them turn off, leaving only the exposure mode, frame counter, and battery power. To turn them on again, at any time lightly press the shutter button. This confirms that the battery level is good. Load a film. F100 has the quick loading system. Press this button and pull the slide down. You can do both at the same time with your thumb. Pop the cartridge on the left side, stretch the film leader to the red index mark. Make sure the sprocket teeth are engaged. Close the back. Press the shutter release button once. The camera will advance to shot number 1, which shows up here. If ERR for error or E for empty blink, open and try again. The film's ISO sensitivity will be set automatically through the DX coding on the film. Select the camera shooting mode. Press the mode button and rotate the main command dial. The choices are P, S, A or M. P for program is the default. The camera will choose the aperture and shutter speeds for optimum exposure. Select the focus mode. The default would be S or single servo. It's best for a single, careful and considered shot. Select the light metering system. The default would be matrix metering. That's the all-round best, so set and forget. Set the film advance mode here. Push the lock and turn the dial. S for single is the default. That's the one you most probably need. Aim the camera. Half press the shutter button. If you're okay with the camera making all the choices for you, including focus and exposure, just frame properly and fully press the shutter button to take a picture. That will be a good start and relatively foolproof. When you reach the end of the roll and the camera won't shoot anymore, the LCD will show a blinking end. By default, the camera will not automatically rewind the film, so don't wait. Press these 2 buttons at the same time and after 1 second, the power rewind will start. If you prefer, In the custom settings, you can change the default so that it will automatically rewind at the end of the roll. It takes around 9 seconds on the S mode. When the rewind is finished, the frame counter will show E for empty. Open the back and take the film cartridge out. Padawans can leave us now and search for F100 on eBay. The rest of this video is for the grown-ups and patient people. F100's production coincided with these cameras on our chronology. In the Nikon world, it overlapped with Nikon F5 and F6 professional cameras, and you will notice many similarities. Its production run covered all of these models from Nikon F55 to F90, plus FM2 and FM3A. Its closest competitor in the same market segment was probably Canon EOS III. A little on lens compatibility. You can use almost any Nikon F mount lens produced since 1977 with excellent results. The best lens type for this camera is the Nikkor D-type autofocus with CPU. They will use the full capabilities of F100. Here's a short compatibility list. The later lenses, which are these, have CPUs. F100 also accepts lenses with a VR feature, which is built-in vibration reduction. With non-CPU lenses, you can use the aperture priority and manual modes. Metering will be center-weighted or spot metering. This is already good enough for most of us. With CPU lenses, aperture can be controlled by the sub-command dial from the body. These lenses should not be used on F100 at all. These are not your everyday lenses. They probably represent 1% of Nikkor lenses, and there are many alternatives, so you're not going to miss them. The lens I'm using today is a compact, highly versatile Nikkor ED AFS 24-85mm zoom lens f3.6 to 4.5 G with VR. Here are all the acronyms used in this lens. ED means extra low dispersion glass, a very high quality glass. AFS means autofocus with silent wave autofocus motor system. G means there's no aperture ring. Aperture is set by the sub-command dial. VR means vibration reduction by almost 4 stops. Although not in the name, it also has IF, which refers to internal focusing. It means as you focus, nothing moves in and out or rotates externally. Its zoom range is perfect for me, and it's sharp where it matters, with excellent color contrast. At only 8.1 centimeters length and 475 grams, is very practical as a single lens to carry around. Its economical price range is very compatible with F100. Now, more about the film ISO. If the camera is set for automatic DX code reading of the film cartridge, DX will appear here. To see what the ISO is, press the ISO button and see it on the LCD panel here. If you want to set the film sensitivity yourself and override the DX, press the ISO button and turn the main command dial and select the one you want on the LCD panel. The automatic DX coding will set the ISO from 25 to 5000. If you set it manually, the range is ISO 6 to 6400. If you see ERR for error on the LCD, it means you've loaded a non-DX coded film but set the ISO to DX. You're forced to use the manual ISO selection. This camera doesn't have a memo holder for your film tab to remember what you've loaded, but it has a film window to see the cartridge itself, which is even better. Back to the film advanced mode. The full range of choices are S for single shot or C for continuous shooting at 4.5 frames per second. CS stands for continuous silent, which shoots at 3 frames per second at slightly slower noise level. By slightly, I mean I can't tell the difference. Interestingly, this also slows down the film rewind. There are 3 focus modes. S for single servo autofocus with focus priority. This means the camera will shoot only if it can successfully lock the focus. To activate the focus lock, lightly press the shutter button or the AF on button. C is continuous servo with release priority. It means the camera will continuously focus as you move the camera around. The camera will shoot at any time whether or not focus has been achieved. You have to continue to half press the shutter release button. F100 has 5 focus area points which can be selected with this focus selector dial like a joystick. It also has 2 modes, single area autofocus and dynamic area autofocus modes, selectable by this dial. For relatively stationary subjects, you probably use the single area autofocus mode. To select any of the focus points, first activate the LCD by lightly pressing the shutter button. Then unlock this focus selector dial and press it up, down, left or right like a joystick. The focus area is seen on the LCD. Lock the focus selector to set it. This is practically useful when you fix the camera firmly on a tripod so the camera doesn't move, but you want the subject to be off the center. This works for the S or single servo focus mode. For the C or continuous focus mode, you do the same, but after you have pressed the shutter button, you also have to press the AF on button and hold it. This combination locks the autofocus at that point. You can then shoot at any time. You can choose dynamic area autofocus mode if the subject is likely to move across the screen. In this mode, you choose the primary focus area, for example, the center position. If the subject moves, the focus shifts to the next sensor that detects the subject, then the next, and so on. So in a limited way, it tracks the subject. A more advanced version of this feature was implemented on the F6. If you prefer, you can use manual focus, either with older manual focus lenses or autofocus lenses set for manual. Put the focus selector dial on M here. Rotate the focus ring until the picture is in focus. Even with the manual focus lenses, the camera can help you to confirm the sharp focus using what's called the electronic rangefinder. This is how it works. Half press the shutter button in the same way as you would for autofocus lenses. Turn the focus ring and look to the bottom left of the viewfinder. If an arrow to the right or left appears, turn the focus ring in that direction until a solid circle appears. This means sharp focus. A little more on the exposure metering modes. Press this center button and turn the dial to select one of three modes. The default and the best would be matrix metering. It uses a 10-segment matrix sensor. If you have a D-type AF Nikkor lens with D standing for distance, the 3D matrix metering is automatically activated. This adds distance data to brightness and contrast for the most accurate exposure control. This mode is not recommended for auto exposure lock or exposure compensation, as under this mode, exposure cannot be locked. This one is for center-weighted metering. This mode will apply a measurement bias for a circle of 12 mm diameter in the center. This mode is for spot metering. In this mode, 100% of metering is concentrated on a 4 mm diameter circle or 1% of the full frame. In the quick start, we use the default P or program mode to let the camera control both shutter and aperture. This doesn't mean you have zero control. In fact, you can change the combination of aperture and shutter speed while keeping the total amount of exposure the same. For example, to speed up the shutter for a fast-moving object, rotate the main command dial. The camera will cycle through all the good combinations of aperture and shutter speed, which give you the same correct exposure. Choose one and shoot. When you use this override, an asterisk appears next to P. If you want to cancel it, you need to rotate the main command dial again until it turns off. Another way is to turn the camera off and on again, or change the exposure mode to something else. The P mode can still fail if it checks every combination and finds that the scene is just too bright or too dark. Then the viewfinder and LCD will give you a warning with high or low, so you can do something about it. For example, if it's low, use a flash. The S mode is for shutter priority auto. Set your lens to the smallest aperture and lock it. Rotate the main command dial and choose the shutter speed you want on the LCD or the viewfinder. You set the shutter manually between 30 full seconds to 1/8,000th of a second. Then the camera will choose the correct aperture for you. Compose and shoot. If you use a non-CPU lens in the S mode, the camera body cannot set the aperture. So S will blink on the LCD panel. Then A appears to indicate that the camera has automatically switched to the aperture priority mode. If you want to lock the shutter speed so it doesn't accidentally change, press this L button and rotate the main command dial a little bit. You will see that L appears in the LCD panel. To turn off the lock, press the L button and rotate the main command dial again. Here we have a focal plane electromechanical vertical traveling metal shutter, which means it's super accurate.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger!
If you open the back of the camera and press the shutter release button, the shutter will not release. So what's your first thought?
Does not compute. Does not compute.
Uh-oh, the camera is defective. Let's spend a bundle of money on CLA. No, it's not defective, and I'm not sure why this feature has been built into the camera. This is how you get around it. Put the camera in the manual mode. Then select 1/250th of a second shutter speed. Remove the lens cap so that the camera can focus on something. Now, with the back door open, the shutter will release. The A mode is for Aperture Priority Auto. In this mode, you choose the aperture and the camera will choose the shutter speed. If you have a CPU lens, lock the lens to the smallest aperture and lock. Then use the sub-command dial to choose your aperture. This will show up on the LCD and the viewfinder. If you have a non-CPU lens, use the lens's own aperture ring. The LCD will show f blank instead of the aperture value. Just like the shutter speed, if you want to lock the aperture set by the sub-command dial, press the L button and turn the sub-command dial. To cancel, do the same again. The M mode is for the manual exposure. In this mode, you select the aperture and shutter yourself. If you have a CPU lens, you set the lens to the smallest aperture and lock. Then select the shutter speed with the main command dial and the aperture with the sub-command dial. If you have a non-CPU lens, you select the aperture with the lens aperture ring. Either way, look through the viewfinder and see the electronic analog exposure display. This display shows overexposure with a band on the left, underexposure with a band on the right, and correct exposure in the center. If the whole analog display blinks, it means the lighting level is beyond the camera's exposure range. You can also lock the exposure. For this, you need to use the spot metering or center weighted metering, not the matrix metering. Point the camera where you want to measure the light. Then press and hold the AEL/AFL button here. Then recompose if you want and shoot. Auto exposure lock can also be set by the half press of the shutter button if you use the custom setting 7. If you want to override the camera's recommendations, you can use the exposure compensation system. Press this button and turn the main command dial. Exposure compensation is available from -5 to +5 stops in 1/3 steps. This symbol appears in the LCD and the viewfinder. If you want to see the actual value, press this button again. The amount of compensation is shown on the electronic analog display and the same place as the frame counter. Exposure compensation is sticky and will apply to all of your shots after you set it. So cancel it as soon as you finish with it. Press the exposure compensation button again and rotate the main command dial until the display shows the compensation value of 0.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger!
Here's a strange booby trap. Turning the camera off and on again does not cancel the exposure compensation. Auto exposure and flash exposure bracketing. This is a lazy scattergun approach to correct exposure. If you're still keen, press the bracketing button here and rotate the main command dial. BKT appears on the LCD panel. Press the same button again and rotate the sub-command dial. The LCD will cycle through a long combination of the number of shots and EV compensation value in 1/3 or half steps like this. To cancel the bracketing, press the button and rotate the main command dial until the BKT indication on the LCD turns off. I suggest the 3 of you who want to try this feature refer to the manual pages 58 to 59 or pause and read them here. Multiple exposure with this symbol is regarded as a drive mode. Press the plus and minus button and rotate the main command dial to set the exposure compensation. This is necessary because otherwise your picture will be overexposed. The camera remains in the multiple exposure mode until you manually cancel it by choosing another film advanced mode like S. Self-timer is also regarded as a film advanced mode, so press the button and rotate the dial to choose the clock icon. Press the shutter button to shoot. The LED here will flash for 8 seconds, then the shot is taken on the 10th second. The camera will not automatically cancel the self-timer after you shoot, so remember to change the film advanced mode to something else like S. Long time exposure, more than 30 seconds. First, set the camera mode to manual, then use the main command dial and set the shutter speed to bulb. Then use the sub-command dial to choose your aperture. Then compose and shoot. As long as the shutter is pressed, the shutter remains open, so it might be best to use the remote cord. F100 has integrated diopter adjustment. Pull out this knob, look through the viewfinder, and turn until the focus brackets appear sharp. Then press the knob back in to lock it. If you're in a dark place and the LCD panel is hard to see, rotate the main power switch one more notch and it will light up for as long as the exposure meter is on. Normally, regardless of what shutter speed is selected, the aperture remains wide open until you press the shutter button, so you will not see the exact effect of depth of field and blurring of the background. So you can press this button to momentarily narrow the aperture down to the one that you've chosen to check your depth of field. The viewfinder for F100 is fixed, like Nikon F6, but the focusing screens are replaceable from inside the lens mount using tweezers that come in the focusing screen box. Two options are available here. Just like its predecessor cameras such as F5, F100 has a collection of 22 custom settings menus or CSM. To select them, press the CSM button here and rotate the main command dial to choose the menu item by its number. While holding the CSM button, rotate the sub-command dial to choose the setting. For example, choose from 0, 1, 2 or 3. Then you remove your finger from the CSM button. That means your choice is set. The custom settings are here if you want to pause and read. I've not used any of them as all of the defaults were fine. If you make a complete mess of the camera settings, including custom settings, you can reset all of them with a 2-button reset. For this, you press the CSM and mode buttons at the same time for 2 seconds. This will release these settings. To go further and cancel the custom settings, one more step is necessary. During the reset process, the custom indication will blink. During that time, release one of the 2 buttons and then press it again, almost like a mouse click. That will return all of the custom settings to the default. I'm pretty sure you're not going to remember any of this. So come back to mama. Back to this video and refresh your memory. F100 has this hot shoe that offers every flash sync feature including these. To select one of these flash modes, press this flash button and rotate the main command dial. It will cycle through the options. A wide variety of flash units can be used on this camera. At the time of the release, Nikon recommended speedlights SB80DX and SB27. Flash units, which by the way Nikon calls speedlights, can be attached either to this hot shoe or this sync terminal with a cable. I personally don't use flash at all, so I don't cover flash settings in great detail here. There are some options for the battery apart from the AA. Two 3V CR123A batteries places the standard battery holder in the grip. Multi-power high-speed battery pack MB15. This one also provides a vertical grip and an extra shutter button. Nickel metal hydride battery MN15. This is a rechargeable battery holder that works with the MB15 multi-power pack. It needs a quick charger MH15. Something that indicates Nikon treated this camera seriously is this 10-pin remote terminal connector with a cap. You can connect all of these accessories to it. DataBack MF29 allows you to imprint the desired data. For example, year, month, day in several different formats on the film. Let's look at this great full information viewfinder. It shows 96% of the view with a magnification of 0.76 with 50mm lens at infinity. The information is in this clear and bright band at the bottom. This is the focus indicator. Left and right arrows are for the electronic rangefinder for manual focusing. The center circle is a sharp focus. This is the metering mode. This L indicates the shutter speed lock. EL stands for auto exposure lock. This part shows the shutter speed. This L indicates the aperture lock. The number next to F indicates the aperture. It shows the aperture only if you use one of the CPU lenses. The top of this section shows the shooting modes P, S, A, M. The scale below shows the analog exposure display, which is used in the manual mode. The same analog display is repurposed for exposure compensation value. When exposure compensation is used, this symbol comes up. If you hold the finger on the exposure compensation button, this section shows the value of the compensation in stops. If you don't press the exposure compensation button, the same section by default shows the frame counter. Any of you familiar with the more advanced Nikon F film cameras such as F5 and F6 will immediately recognize all of these settings. The nearest experience would be Nikon F6. In conclusion, apart from the single-digit Nikon F Professional series, this F100 feels like the most accomplished Nikon film camera. After the F5, if Nikon had not introduced the F6, you would probably regard F100 as a top-of-the-line professional film camera from Nikon. The most useful lessons from the F5 have gone into a much more compact and practical camera body. F100 is only a small step below the unmatched crown prince, the F6. Of course, there are many camera enthusiasts, myself included, who really like the simplicity and nostalgia of cameras like Nikon FM2N and Nikon FE, and that back-to-the-basics shooting style. However, this camera can very closely emulate both of those in practical use. Just put it on the manual mode and turn off the autofocus. It can behave like the FM2N. In the aperture priority mode, it can emulate Nikon FE very closely. If you're not afraid of batteries, or if you've used a variety of Nikon digital cameras this century, or even the last great professional DSLR, the Nikon D850, you will feel right at home with almost no learning curve. Some buttons are moved around, but they function in very similar ways. It's almost like getting a rental car. You're not going to need the manual, and you will have all of the conveniences when you need them, while exploring the film world. Its default batteries can be found anywhere you buy milk or newspaper. All of this at 1/10 of the price of Nikon F6 has made F100 very popular. Does it have any obvious problems? Not that I have found. F100 is one of the most searched cameras on Google, so if you're considering this camera, you're not alone and you're on the right track. I'm predicting that as the years pass, you're going to find that this camera will hold and increase its value due to its popularity and reliability. So, before there is a crowd rush, don't hesitate to get yourself a Nikon F100 in mint condition with a sharp zoom lens like this one. That's all you need. That's it for Nikon F100. Subscribe means thank you. You can download the pictures through the links provided in the comments.